It's time for the Dog and Polly podcast on FingerLakes1.com, featuring Harold Webb Dog Weber and Paul Hellstrom.
It is a Wednesday, June 6, 2012. Another time for another edition of the Dog and
Polly Show.
Today, as Ernie Banks would say, let's play two. We're happy to have a couple of our buddies in from the Newark Pilots as we're getting ready to play some baseball in Newark starting tomorrow night. Our first live webcast here on FingerLakes1.com. Good morning, everybody. It is the Dog H. Weber with you, along with my buddy Paul Hellstrom. Our producer is Jim Senecropi. And without further ado, it's great to introduce a couple of gentlemen who had a chance to meet at length last night over in Newark. And without further ado, Bob Ohmann, the owner of the Newark Pilot Organization, plus many other enterprises. Bob, it's good to have you over. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good. It's good to be here.
And, of course, their head coach of the Newark Pilot 2012 edition, a young man named Chris Ebright. Chris, good to have you along.
Thank you.
Now, of course, as you all know, and if you don't know, FingerLakes1.com, and Paulie can chime in anytime he'd like, we have come up with an agreement to cover 8 of your games, and that starts tomorrow night, and we are looking forward to it. But we want to give everybody a little background of first off, Bob, yourself. I know, reading a little bit about your history, you were born in Lyons.
Correct.
So was I. You're a little younger than I am. We won't discuss the ages. But you moved on, to the Carolinas, and then you decided to come back home to foster some good community relationships. Explain to our audience a little bit about yourself and what you did to come back to Wayne County and help out that county, what you're doing right now.
Well, in 1968, I graduated from high school in Lyons, and I went to Buffalo, went to school up there. And in 1982, I left for North Carolina. I had a company that gave me an opportunity to move there. And I went into the building business in Raleigh and in the Carolina area. And I still look back as, in the Lyons area or Wayne County, Newark, as my home. Mm-hmm. And I would come back here quite a bit, and I would invest different types of things like in the community center, the fire departments. And then I had the opportunity to buy the movie theater back that was there. My grandfather built in 1915. And I remodeled that, and it's open today, and I'm pretty proud of that. And then I had the opportunity, I was approached by the Perfect Game League to put a team back in Newark. And it had been without baseball for probably 10, 15 years. And I went over there and looked at the ballpark, and I said to my wife, she loves baseball. She's a Braves fan. I said, I'd really like to do something like this, and we put it together, and we worked with the league. We were the first expansion team in the league. The league came from the NYCBL. Originally, the NYCBL's larger successful teams decided to break away because they had played in all old New York Penn baseball parks, and they had the opportunity to get back into Newark, and then obviously we had the Geneva situation that didn't work out, which that happens. Sure. But we kind of grew from there. Last year we drew 24,000 people, which was
very nice.
It was extremely successful, and I think Newark has looked at one of the better teams in our league now. We had the opportunity to win the championship. We came in, Chris put together a heck of a team. We got really good kids from all over the country. 25% of our kids came from California. And remarkably, some of our stars last year were from the Rochester area.
That's great.
We had a boy from Canandaigua by the name of Justin Diamato that was absolutely a fabulous pitcher. He's pitching right now in the Carolinas in the league down there, and he had his first win, I think, the other day. Sure. We also had a fellow by the name of Osterman out of Pittsburgh that ended up winning the game for us. He hit a home run against Amsterdam. So I think that's enough. Go ahead.
A lot of things are going on. And no, we have a lot to talk about. Paul, just so before we get to Chris about his background, I had a chance along with Jim to go over it yesterday and do a trial run and check on our equipment and Bob was kind enough to be my host and show me around the beautiful facility. Paul is, not because they're here, not because we're doing 8 of his games, is that it is a spectacular place. You got to get Helen to get over there. It's amazing how beautiful that park is. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it's
gorgeous.
It's certainly going forward. It's certainly not going to hurt the fact that they won the championship last year. So I think that'll pique the interest of a few more people, and it'll help them this year. Their attendance sounded pretty good on an average for that type of thing. With nothing to go on.
Oh, I know.
Previously, but wish them success going forward.
Well,
Sounds like a good idea.
I was telling Chris and Bob, I'm from the old school, and I'll tell you, I'm 67 years young. Is I am impressed by certain things that maybe some people wouldn't pick up on. And I told him as I drove into the park last night, as Jimmy drove in, I was riding with Jim, and I picked up on the signage of the field, on the outfield. It was amazing. Clean, structured, well done, no dilapidation of signs hanging over, not signs that need paint. It was just spectacular to see that as you pull in, and it got better as you get out of the car. Because Bob and his concession stands and the dugouts, the field, too. You got to check this field out. And, I mean, they had that thing manicured, and I can't wait to see it tomorrow night. They open up, by the way, tonight, you guys do. You're heading out to Watertown. Yep. And that leads me into Chris. Chris, talk a little bit about yourself. You're the head coach of the Newark Pilots. How long have you been in Newark? And tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into baseball and kind of managing things.
Sure. Actually, growing up, I had to be in baseball.
Okay.
Part of the family thing. I'm from Ithaca, Michigan.
Okay.
Went to school and played 4 years at Saginaw Valley State.
Okay.
Division II school, and played a couple years in pro ball in Australia.
Nice.
And then got back from there and knew I wanted to coach. And they run a great organization.
How did you land up in Newark? Did they just select you, or did you send a resume in?
Actually, I was coaching in Hornell.
Okay.
And then NYCBL, and my assistant coach there actually heard about this job, and he told me about it. And so, of course, I brought him along too the first year, but it was that's how I heard my assistant coach. Yep.
Now, what kind of a coach are you? Are you going to be are you the one that gets excited? Are you kind of laid back? What kind of a mode are we looking at here?
I get excited.
You do?
I mean, you guys, I compare myself to in the way of getting excited. Ron Washington for the
Sure.
Rangers.
Oh yeah.
How his feet are going. And
Yeah.
That's kind of
chewing
what I
the
do.
gum or chewing the tobacco, whatever he's
Nope,
chewing.
sunflower seeds. I don't
Sunflower seeds. Okay.
But yeah, I get excited. My feet are going, but it's, I'm not a screamer and a yeller. Kids want to play for me. It's fun.
The only thing you are missing is you don't have a Josh Hamilton. You had one of them.
They might have. They might have.
We
You
actually
never know.
The upcoming Josh Hamilton.
We actually have a couple big left-handed hitters, so yeah, we might.
By the way, this is Dog and Paulie here on a Wednesday, June the 6th. I'm Harold Weber, Dog, and this is Paul Hellstrom, as you figured out by now. He's the Paulie part of the show. We have Bob Ohmann, the owner of the Newark Pilots and other enterprises, and we have Chris Ebright, the head coach of the Newark Pilots. For our viewers and listeners, Chris and Bob can both pick up on this. Tell us about what makes the perfect game. Talk about the league and the type of team you have, and how did that get formed, and what happens? These kids, how do you end up with these kids? You got a 30-man roster starting tonight. Tell us a little bit about, somebody can pick up that, how did it start, and where do they come from, and how do you get this roster together?
To get the roster together, it's actually all the coaches that I'm,
Okay.
my contacts, buddies, or, guys I trust.
Okay.
That's probably 3/4 of them.
Okay.
And to fill out the rest of the roster, it'll actually be a random email. Like I'll look at, schools' rosters and look at their stats and kind of do my homework on it, and just a random email, and starts the conversation.
And now, Bob, you pointed out, too, they come to your area. They come to Newark, and they put them up at the FLCC?
That's correct.
For room.
We thought that was a little bit better venue than putting them in host families in the first
Okay.
couple of years. Not being in Newark, living in Raleigh and then kind of coming back and forth, that's kind of a program that you got to put in place. But last year we put it, when they all went to Finger Lakes Community College, we noticed that they all the other coaches, they liked having these kids under control in one place. And so what we decided was to bring it back again this year, and it seems we gave them the opportunity to have a host family or be at Finger Lakes Community, and they chose Finger Lakes Community. I think you found that too.
Yeah, it makes actually the kids, I found that they bond better. They get used to each other better. They've got along. I mean, maybe we're just lucky and have a great group of kids 2 years in a row, but they're around each other 24/7, and so far it's been
Now,
nothing
Chris,
but good.
before we get to the game tomorrow night, and, of course, you open up in Watertown on the road today, then your home openers tomorrow night, and we'll be there, of course, fingerlakes1.com. I'll be there working the game with our buddy Brendan Harrington, who's going to join our broadcast team this year. And also Jimmy will be there tomorrow, Jim Senacropi, and, of course, our cameraman ace cameraman Jeremy Hunt will be on the scene as well. Talk a little bit about, Chris, your attitude toward the actual outcome of these games. I know everybody wants to win.
Sure.
Is it a learning curve? Is it something that you don't mind losing a few games if you see improvement for some of your kids? Or I mean, it's not winning at all costs, I assume. What is your attitude about?
We're here to develop the kids, but we're also here to win it.
Right.
Do I get on them if they're mental mistakes? Yes. They're kids, and physical mistakes are going to happen, and I get on them. I mean, I think there's only one way to play baseball.
Sure.
The right way, and if they don't get a runner over, I mean, I don't chew them out. But again, if they come in and we'll sit down and talk about the different situations, and so it's kind of both. I mean, we're there to win it.
Yeah.
Right, boss.
Right. Yeah. Right.
And
Al Davis, just win, baby. Just win.
That's right. Now you got to answer to my wife, right?
Yeah. That's
Yeah, we got to talk about some of that. And Paulie, from what you've heard so far, it sounds to me like it's going to be a good go over in Newark, and I like the attitude that I'm hearing so far. And if they're drawing 800 to 1,000 folks for home games, that's quite a testimony, and I can see why looking at that park. So I think Paulie, they're on the right thing going here.
Yeah, I would like to say that probably it looks like the manager-coach could play ball. So, I mean, it's a little different situation coming across to the people. So he's definitely got to lead by example, but he's also got to have that separation to let them know that he's the coach. And if they don't move somebody over, he just said, they come back and they go, what you should have done there, huh? You should have got him over there, something like that. I don't know how he handles it because it looks like he could step into the lineup and play. But these kids are young, and it's the first time probably leaving a more comfortable environment at their college or high schools or whatever they played, and they need something. And I think keeping the teams together gives them more of a professional. That's what they're going to do when they start playing ball somewhere. Even in no matter what level they play at, they're going to be on a team bus or on a team plane.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to be staying in hotels.
Now, maybe, Chris, you can point out this as well, talking to Chris Ebright, the head coach of the Newark Pilots, as FingerLakes1.com gets ready to launch our coverage of 8-game package starting tomorrow night. The temperature is supposed to be mid-70s and gorgeous. I don't know, these weathermen keep saying pop-up shower. I think they say that in their sleep.
Yeah.
The good news is they're never right, so let's hope the pop-up shower doesn't come. Chris, have you looked at the league? Obviously, we're getting underway. Anybody out there, have you handicapped your opponents as you at other teams scare you? They look like they got some good players. Is that something you guys do at this stage of the year?
I'm a stats guy, and I've actually, this may sound weird to some, but I've actually gone through all the teams' rosters and made hitting charts on all their hitters from this past spring.
Great.
There's a handful of very good teams this year. So some of the teams will just go for the big name school players that are just redshirted or didn't play the spring, but this year they've got some kids from some big schools with some good numbers. So
now Jim pointed out to me, Bob, and Chris as well, that he sent me a chart. I haven't opened it up yet. I'm going to do it. I'm going to print off a bunch of stuff before our first broadcast. But he pointed out 55 members of the league have gotten pro contracts in some sort of the organization.
Sure.
That's pretty nice testimony.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I mean, there is opportunities. If you bring game, you're going to get picked up by somebody.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So that's impressive as well. So I think that, folks, if you get an opportunity, there's nothing like checking out a good baseball game at a good park and an opportunity to go down to the concession stand. I told Bob I fell in love with the concession stand. I saw some of the entrees, and I will be not eating tomorrow night. I can tell you that. We'll be eating at the park. But just so you know, our 8 games will start off tomorrow night. The Oneonta team comes into town, and that, of course, will be June 7th. We'll be on the air about 7 o'clock tomorrow night. A lot going on. It should be a flurry of excitement, I'm no doubt, on opening night at home. Then we return on Father's Day night. Glens Falls will come into town. These are all 7:05 games. Again, we'll be going on air around 7 o'clock. And the 26th of June, we'll come back and do Elmira. July 3rd, Oneonta is the opponent. July 8th will be Elmira. July 11th, we will check out the Amsterdam team. And July 18th, Cooperstown. There's a name that's legendary for baseball. And, of course, July 29th, per our records, will be our final webcast. Everything's subject to change around here. But July 29th, Elmira. And again, the broadcast team will consist of myself, tomorrow Brendan Harrington will be working with me in the booth. Jimmy Senacropi will be handing off the ball to Chris Marcourt. Chris, you may know from the 31st lap. That's on fingerlakes1.com. Him and Jimmy will be producing these broadcasts. And, of course, Jeremy Hunt will be our cameraman. So we look forward to it. It should be a lot of fun. And, Bob, before we take our first break and go over some of our sponsors that make this show possible, and then we're going to come off that and do some comments on other sports that are happening around the world. Talk about your staff. You got a general manager. Give us a little bit about himself and some of your other. I know Leslie, your wife's involved heavily, but
Yep.
You got a guy we met you last night, a legendary guy named G. A lot of great people working there at your organization. Talk about some of those people.
Well, we hired our general manager. He was an intern with us last year. He came from Cortland State. He was in the sports management program, and we had the opportunity to pick him up, and he learned quite a bit of our different types of game day types of stuff and things that we needed from him. We have basically a hands-on approach between my wife and I on the team.
Sure.
So we communicate a lot. We've got a marvelous field man. And he works for the Village of Newark, and then he kind of subs with us too.
Wow.
And he's been in baseball. He worked on, obviously, the Geneva Field in the past. He worked on Red Wing Stadium. He worked in all the major parks throughout the country. His name's Dan Wilkinson, and we're just very fortunate. He makes that place look beautiful.
Oh, it looked beautiful last night.
Then we've got a concession stand operator who owns the Newark Diner. He comes in with his wife, and he's in his mid-70s, and he loves baseball, and he keeps that thing singing like what you said with all his little special foods.
Oh, yeah.
Game day, it's an economic impact for
Sure.
the town.
Oh, yeah.
We have a lot of part-time workers. We have a lot of things, all the stuff that we buy, the Coca-Colas
Sure.
and things like that. And I think one of the big things, too, is we have good support from the businesses in the Newark area. And we have some national advertisers with us, like
awesome.
Coca-Cola. And that, obviously, you need that to develop the team, because our bus rides, just to get on the bus, we hired a company out of Geneva, Finger Lakes limousine service. That
know them very well, yeah.
They bought a big coach bus for
Right.
us to transport us, and so we look very professional going down the road, but that costs money.
I bet it does, yeah.
Obviously you're going to need to generate some cash to come into the place, and you've got to
Sure.
run it like a business. And then again, too, it helps the kids because it gives you the opportunity to clothe them correctly with the right type of uniforms, the right equipment. We've got a full-time trainer, and that's one thing that a lot of these collegiate teams don't have. And our trainers there every game. They wrap our arms. They ice them down. They also have the opportunity to go to Brownstone Physical Therapy for any ailment to see the doctor over there. And and I think just the other day he came out to our field and worked with the guys and suggested if they had an injury that he wanted to see him and he wanted to talk to them. Last year we had a couple injuries, and they were operated on at Newark General Hospital, and the kids were from California. We obviously never want an injury. But let me tell you, to have belief in your athletic department, for the physical therapy,
Right.
and not sending them all the way back home, and the parents wanted it done here.
Right.
That's a testament to the area. I think one of the other things, and I don't mean to get off on a tangent at all.
No, go ahead.
But the number of people that come to our games from outside the area.
Right.
They spend money. They stay in hotels. They travel down on the wine tours and things like that. And I think that has a lot to do with all the different states. I think we said this year we're represented by 14 different states, and that's a lot of families that come in because the mom and dad come. They bring the brother and sister, the aunt and the uncle, and then we go to the next thing. Where are the promotions? For instance, we had the most listened to radio broadcast in the country for wood bat teams, and there's over 300 teams.
Wow.
And I had looked back. There's a company by the name of Team Line that you punch in on our website, and you can listen to our games. And I called the guy up because we wanted to get the stats, because we've been taking it. We also use WACK that was promoting it. And he said, it's really remarkable. You beat all the Cape Cod teams and all over up in the Northeast, California and Alaska. And I think a lot of it had to do, they were aware. And plus, once, to his testament, we got kids from all over the country, but that promoted the area because, when you listen to the radio station, you would hear the different areas that were advertised on it.
pretty neat.
Yeah.
A lot of good things going on, and
Right.
I mean, I was impressed by the people I met last night because it seemed they're all engaged for the one goal to make this as successful,
Absolutely,
and as entertaining to people. And again, my wife Mary, Jimmy, I was telling her last night about my visit to Newark, and she can't wait to go over. And we will definitely come over on a game that I'm not broadcasting, so I can sit there and enjoy a nice evening at the park with Mary. And she's a big Yankee fan, so she'll be excited about getting over there. I think it's time we take a short break, talk about some of our sponsors, and we read them here. But first off, Paulie, of course, owned the legendary Franklin Hotel in Waterloo for many years, where I was a regular customer, right, Paul? And
as a young child, yes.
As a young child, I was, yes. But Paul is now doing some pre-work, getting the stuff ready for the restaurant, the Deluxe restaurant, the legendary Deluxe up in Geneva, where me and Mary were the other night. Paul enjoyed a nice dinner. Talk a little bit about the Deluxe. The Bullheads are finally over.
The Bullheads are over, but
business is booming.
Charlie redid his menu and made everything more explanatory, and they put a couple new items on for the summer. People are more health conscious now, and
they are.
And
okay.
yeah, they are. They're trying to be. And once again, the weather's been so fickle that usually we lose a little business when the first 75, 80-degree weather comes along, because people fight to get outside to the places that have decks and stuff, and they cook out in the backyard. But the weather's been up and down and rain and all. So Charlie said he's having one of his better years. I've been there 25 and a half years.
Wow.
I was in my own place for 16, so I was fortunate enough to work in 2 houses for 45 years in a business that I love. I love the food business, and 3.5 million dinners later, I'm still there. So I guess if it isn't broke, don't fix it. But it's like baseball. It's forever. Baseball is the closest thing to what it was when they call it America's pastime. It's the closest game, I think, now as to what it was in the 40s and the 30s and 50s. They've kept the game the same, and that's why But Charlie's very happy with the way things are going. He's happy with the Mets.
Oh, they're playing great. They flew that game last night, though.
The Mets are going into Yankee Stadium this weekend, and Charlie's got all his Met thing. We got the 2 TVs, one with the Yankees on, one with the Mets on. Of course, Charlie always has his back to the Yankees, but he always gets excited, and he'll say to me, how are the Mets doing? They got a chance this year? And I said, Charlie, don't even look until it's August.
100 games.
100 games
Long
in before
season.
you do that and put yourself under that pressure. But the key to the whole thing is, consistency, and that's what we do there. We're family-orientated, as is the Newark baseball program. I mean, when you talk about beautiful fields and you talk about the concession stands, and it's a game that I always felt as if you could hold the attention of a 5, 6, 7-year-old in baseball. The other sports have become frenzied up and down the court in basketball and football, but baseball, the kids can watch the strategy. They get excited because they're playing T-balls. They're introduced to the game early, and I think it's the most family sport that there is. So when you go out to the ball game, they've made it affordable, and going forward, I think they're a class operation, and I look forward to going over to a few games this year and seeing them.
And by the way, Bob's organization charges $4. If you're a senior citizen, it's $3. I mean, how good can you get that? It's pretty reasonable entertainment fee in today's society.
Yep.
It's hard to get a cup of coffee for $3. Hey, by the way, speaking of the Deluxe, we were in there. Myself and Mary went up there the other night, had dinner, and I couldn't help but notice Paulie, the lovable Linda, Charlie's wife, was behind the bar with her Mets shirt on, and Charlie was standing next to her taking orders from Linda, and he had his Mets shirt on. So they were really getting into the Mets spirit. And,
in spite of that, people still love them. So it's all right. No.
But the food, Bob and Chris, if you haven't been over to Deluxe in Geneva, I recommend it strongly. It's a fabulous restaurant. Good. All kinds of great food. It's one of the old, I guess, restaurants in that area for I don't know how many years it's been there, Paul, forever. We used to go there when I was dating my wife, Mary, who's from Geneva, way back. Nearly
96 years. Is that right, Paul? Does that sound right?
Yeah. The Deluxe. Been there a long time.
Yep.
Great Italian food, great Delmonico steaks. They do a great job. So if you guys are ever in Geneva and you're looking to eat somewhere, and it's not a Monday night because they're closed on Mondays, check out the Deluxe. Well, Jimmy, let's talk about the Seneca Falls Country Club, another fine sponsor of our show. I see the members are increasing down our gym, and things are percolating along. The golf course in gorgeous shape. What else can you talk about the club? We're moving into June. Any June specials going on?
I haven't got.
Okay.
Haven't got word on the June specials yet, open golf special, but the course is unbelievable.
It's in gorgeous shape.
It's the best shape it's been in 10 years. The storm that we had last week didn't do too much damage. It took down 20 to 30 trees, but they were all, from the woods. A few fell on some tees. No damage to any greens, and no major trees were lost. Like, you imagine losing that tree on 11 or 13.
Oh, wow.
But they're safe and sound. So, Friday night fish fry and prime rib. It's I just can't get over how good the course is.
The leagues are going full speed ahead.
The leagues are packed. A lot of the guys in the leagues are staying late after, hanging out at the bar, getting some food.
Sure.
It's a small but comprehensive menu. In other words, you can get a burger, you can get a chicken sandwich, you can get fries. They make these chips, homemade potato chips.
Yep.
That are phenomenal. The soups are phenomenal.
I've had a couple of the clam chowders. They're good. Yeah.
Yeah. So now what's happening is folks are playing golf and staying for lunch or dinner.
It's nice.
My big thing is the condition of the course.
It's
playing down there for 30 years. This is as good as I've seen it. From tee to green.
Yep.
It's fantastic. So, and of course, in the early spring, it's a little easier to maintain.
Sure.
The conditions aren't as stressful, but I tell you, you should get down and if you're not a member, you should get down and give it a shot and play that course. Make it part of your rotation. I'm sure you won't be disappointed.
And by the way, there is a $500 coupon if you want to join the club, even though it's June. If you weren't a member in 2011, they're going to give you $500 off the membership, whether it be a single or a family. So that's a great deal. Again, you could not be a member in 2011 to take advantage of that deal. So you're looking at a single membership with tax, $700 and some dollars, and you get all the privileges of membership, and it's really a nice deal. So check that out. By the way, Bob Fuller, our general manager at Seneca Falls Country Club, is a special guest rotating on this show. We hope to have him here next week to come back and talk about golf and the club, and we might discuss some more rules. And if you're interested in talking to the country club and you have interest in joining the club, or you would like to set up a banquet, a dinner for your family, whatever, some graduation, believe it or not, all kinds of good stuff.
Want a golf lesson?
Golf lesson? Give Bob Fuller a call. You can call down there, area code 315-568-5202. Or you can email him at membership@SenecaFallsCountryClub.com. Again, Bob Fuller, we're going to try to line him up for next Wednesday's show. Well, our next sponsor is a good friend of mine, Dick Marshall's Auto Sales on Routes 5 and 20. I'm sure Chris and Bob went by his business on the way into Seneca Falls today. Got great used cars. Been a friend of mine for over 40 years. Dickie Marshall, Mr. Racing Man, loves to follow NASCAR, and he's a big fan of Danica Patrick. I think Danica Patrick should be working at Bob Ohmann's concession stand, but that's another story. That's another commentary.
I love having her work there.
I don't. Yes, she would be good. She'd draw a few people, but she's not going to beat those old timers and those race cars. She might do well in that little minor league stuff called the Nationwide. Oh, by the way, in the Nationwide last week in Dover, 30th place, Danica. So I'm not a big fan of her, as you can tell. But she's not going to beat those NASCAR guys. They're not going to let her take that away from them. They work too hard. Oh, and by the way, speaking of racing, I see Kurt Busch got suspended for this week. The Busch brothers, they continuously get in trouble. Kyle and Kurt, the Las Vegas duet, they lose their cool. They ran into people. They're banging into them against the wall on the cool-down lap at the end of the race. They run into people on the cool-down lap. They're, swearing at the media. I couldn't help but laugh, Dick. Paulie, it happened again. Some young kid, I don't know, was racing Kurt Busch. And Kurt, being the seasoned veteran, didn't appreciate this wet-nosed kid chasing him around the track and getting too close to him. So in the post-race interview, I saw that. He said I'm on probation, but he referred to it with some swear words under his breath, made it sound like he wasn't a happy camper. NASCAR heard the interview, and now is sitting him down this week. So he won't be racing, Kurt Busch, because he's on probation. And if you move one finger out of the way while you're in probation, they'll suspend you. So Kurt Busch is sat down. Yeah. Dick, I know that, Paulie, it's not surprising you with Kurt Busch.
Well, before you leave Dick and go on,
yep.
I think Kurt Busch is trying to carry the excitement for NASCAR. It's starting to get vanilla pretty early. Hendrick's team is moving forward. It's watching Jimmy Johnson go around in circles and lead everybody again. We got away from that for a year or so. Other people popped up in there with Carl Edwards and Tony Stewart last year. But here we go. The money team. Yep. Kurt Busch is in the back now. He's fallen away from a sponsor in the last year. He doesn't have much money on his team.
No, he doesn't have much money.
So he's a chaser. And they brought Danica Patrick in for a little excitement. And she can't get past 30th, like you said.
Go, Daddy, go.
But I'm not going to, this is not 70s radio. You can't say she's not getting there because she's she. The boys and the girls are all the same now. You're still in 70s radio. I'm just starting. So,
hey.
I mean,
if she wasn't good looking, you'd think she'd get a shot at NASCAR. Let me be honest. Let's put it out there. If that woman didn't have good looks and a nice body, do you really think that NASCAR would have come after her to be a race driver? Seriously. If she was uglier than that wall, do you think they would chase her?
No, I don't think so.
I'll answer it for you. No.
Yeah, but
so,
the 10 races that she gets in, I guarantee you the sales at the trailers, the Sylvaner trailers, in 2 weeks out of the 3 that she's raced in NASCAR, she's outsold Dale Jr. In memorabilia and souvenirs. So that maybe she's just passing through. And then there's Dale Jr. Having his best year ever. Still can't get a win.
No.
Every time he leads a lap, 85,000 people are standing up, just wanting him to be. And Dale's looking down, senior, and he's just saying, he's not me. He's not 3. he's not 3. But he is what he is. He's one of the nicest guys. I'd love to hang around with him.
Oh, yeah.
But and then you got Kurt Busch trying to carry interest in the sport by swearing at everybody and crashing everybody. And last week, 9 laps in, 35 cars in the back of the field all started binging and banging. I can get that at the Demolition Derby in Waterloo. I don't need to watch professional, go out there. So it is what it is. But Dickie's looking for a little excitement, and he's praying for Danica to get a top 5 or top 10.
I should tell Bob and Chris I had a bet with those guys, Ted Flock and Dick Marshall, who's Marshall's Auto Sales. Longtime buddy of mine. They're Danica fans, and we had a bet. I proposed a bet over the air, $5 a piece, and I said that since there's 43 cars that start the race every week, that she would finish 22nd or worse, and if she finished 21st or better, they would win. And she finishes like 28th. Ka-ching, ka-ching. They came in on this show and made a presentation of the $5 a piece, and I've been chasing them to see if they want to belly up again. They can't be contacted. I think they're in Switzerland. They're hiding away from the phones because Go Daddy Go can't finish better than 30th in the nationwide. If you can't make it in Toledo, how are you going to make it at Yankee Stadium, huh?
Boy, it's hard to believe we're across the street from the Women's Hall of Fame. Women, the hair if your wife was listening to this show, she might not even know racing that well, but, the hair's got to be standing up.
She might not let me in the park tomorrow night. Go, Daddy, go. Well, anyways, Dick Marshall, now that I've been at that deal, Dick Marshall's Auto Sales got great used cars out in his lot. Great service, by the way. I've been over to Tommy Thompson a couple times working on some of my cars' issues. Gives you a price, tells you when it's going to get done, and it's done exactly when he said it. Tommy Thompson, Dick Marshall, and Dick, if you're checking out the show since you sponsored the show, let us know if you're interested in some Danica Patrick action. Go, Daddy, go. By the way, our final sponsor this morning is Lizard's Tailgater Lounge, and if you guys want to go to a bar to have a little cocktail some night, it's a little place up in Waterloo. It's kind of out of the, the main drive. Paul's aware of it. It's up on Church Street. It's called Lizard's Tailgater Lounge, and it's got the greatest clientele in the world. At 67 years young, I go up there and have a cold one once in a while. And just to see the people at the bar and the stories they talk about and how they get talking about stuff, it's hilarious. And if you're not crying by the time you leave there, you just didn't enjoy yourself at the bar. Lizards introduces, they got wacky weekdays now. We got half-price appetizers, 2 to 5, Monday through Friday. We got everything. We got a $2 Tuesday, $2 domestic bottles, 5 to 9, and free darts, 7 to 8:30. I mean, we got everything going here. What do we got for Wednesday night? We got some free appetizers, and we got Twisted Thursday. That's great, Paul. You love that one, Twisted Thursday. $2.75, 24-ounce Twisted Tea. Wow. I wouldn't be going on the air. I might have one of those, Jim, before I come to the park tomorrow night. 24-ounce Twisted Tea. Wouldn't that be a great broadcast, huh? So we got a 24-ounce Twisted Tea and Jack and Coke, 5 to 9. And also 15 wings and pizza for $10 all day and all night. Friday night, they got free appetizers and buy two, get one free. Wow. I don't know, Paul, if that's going to be Sunday night. Domestic battles, 4 to 6. So Lizard's Tailgater Lounge, Scott Trickler, my good friend, a great sponsor of the Dog and Paulie show. We thank all those folks for their great support and their sponsorship, because without sponsors, as Bob certainly knows, these shows are hard to do.
Amen.
Amen. Let's talk about, before we get back, of course, our special guest this morning, Chris Ebright, the head coach of the Newark Pilots 2012 edition, and Bob Ohmann, Lyons, New York, born in Lyons like the dog, so we do have that in common. I got him by a few years, though, and we're talking about the team as it gets ready to embark on the start of the season as they head to Watertown. What time are you guys leaving, Chris?
Bus pulls out at 2 o'clock.
Nice. Beyond it or under it. I like it. 2 o'clock?
That's right.
I like it. Okay, so good luck tonight on that. And, of course, FingerLakes1.com will be there tomorrow night. And we'll be covering the opening game at home as Oneonta comes in to take on the Newark Pilots. But let's switch just now before we get back to Bob and Chris, talk about some other world of sports and get their opinions on them. With one baseball question, Chris, and maybe Bob can chime in as well. One thing that has always driven me crazy are the guys in blue, the umpires, and the fact that Bud Selig, who I'm not a big fan of, who I think should have retired 30 years ago. I mean, he's old, he's archaic, he doesn't have a clue. I don't think he knows it's 2012. I really don't think so. But my point is, number one, he's not allowing Pete Rose to come up for a vote to get into the Hall of Fame, which I think is wrong. But the umpires are nice people, as you know, Chris. You've been involved in baseball. I'm sure Bob has too. They're nice people. They mean well.
Sure.
But they make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have instant replay on home runs. They go back and go down through the dugout, and they check on home runs, and they determine, did it go over, did it not go over? They make the call.
Takes too much time.
It does. It takes too much time. But like Santana the other night against St. Louis, the ball hit by Beltran, hits the chalk line. The indentation of the ball is on the chalk line. And I don't have to tell you and Bob, that's a fair ball.
Mm-hmm.
They missed a call, giving Santana a no-hitter. Whether I understand it's a time-consuming aspect of it, but why not allow these guys like they do with Tom Coughlin, throw a flag and let's review that one down the third base line? What's wrong with that? Because if they'd have reviewed that, they would have called that a fair ball. The ball hit the line. Sure. And as you know, the chalk line is fair.
Well, the thing about it, though, is there's 200 judgment calls in a baseball game.
Yeah, I don't know.
You know, what about the pitch that Santana threw across the corner of the plate that the umpire called a ball?
Yeah.
You know, anytime if that ball hit the line, it was a close play. So when you, as a batter, hit a ball like that, it's in that gray area. It could go either way. You know, if he hits it 2 inches to the right, there's no question. But I just
think it's going to take too much time.
Yeah, I think it takes too much time. I think, I wouldn't mind seeing it on, close plays at the plate, stuff like that. But even that, I really don't have any use for it in baseball.
Yeah. Well, the other night, just Chris, to expand on my point, they called a double play ball short to second to first, and the first baseman was this far off the bag. You might have seen that on SportsCenter.
The Rockies?
Yeah.
Helton? Yeah.
Right. It wasn't even close, from me to you away, and they called him out.
See, something like that.
Right.
Like the umpires.
Bingo.
They actually have signals to each other.
Okay.
On whether they should ask for help or not.
Okay.
And for some reason, that umpire didn't want to ask.
Okay.
I guess that's what went on with that.
So you chime up with Jimmy. I suppose you say it's an instinctive game. You make the call as you see it.
There is human error, and just like you said about a call, people may blame the umpires for a call in the 8th or 9th, but there's so many situations in baseball that they're not thinking of the 2nd and 3rd inning when the batters didn't do this, or so it's. I think the instant replay is too long and takes too much time.
Baseball, they're looking to get it from 220 to 240.
Yep.
They don't need 315, 320 games. The people, no matter how good the game was, you're just going to come out of there exhausted, And the one thing that's been around in baseball forever is the phantom tag. The ball beats the runner to second. The catcher throws the ball down there. The guy swipes his glove. It's not even near the guy, but he beat the runner. The throw beat the runner.
Right.
And, then it's made, and you get to watch it 30 times home. And it's just not that way. But, I agree. It's the closest game, I keep going back, to what I was watching in the 40s and the 50s. And
Right.
And I'd like to keep it traditional. I'd like to see the umpires involved. You could put a chip at every bag, a computer chip that red is if he's out and green if he's in. You could do all those things. But, I think that traditional values of baseball, I think it's umpire. You need to be there. Plus, what about the excitement of the managers going out there and the different managers
Getting tossed
that he has seen in his time,
Right.
and different things like it's part of the game.
Bob, you agree?
I agree 100%.
Okay.
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah, of course, we have a different way that we handle the umpires in
Okay.
Newark.
Go ahead.
Who handles them there?
His wife.
Oh, yes, you told me that. Celeste gets on to pour.
Oh, my goodness. She goes to the Division II National Championship game, and we got some kids playing up in Cary.
Yep.
Go ahead, explain.
Yeah.
Well, we have 3 kids that are flying tomorrow from Delta State University. They just lost the national championship game, and it's 25 minutes from your house.
Yeah.
And she decided to go down there, hang out, and meet the guys. And apparently, national championship game, she was the one that you could hear getting on the umpire. So,
You got to love
boy.
it.
yeah, she gets into it.
She's a fan.
Yep.
Sounds
Yeah.
like she's a
Into
fan.
it.
She's a fan.
Well, he introduced me to his wife Les last night. He's telling me she's a big Braves fan and he's a big Yankee fan. And don't I screw it up and say, "Hey, you're a big Yankee fan"? I thought she was going to slap me.
I'm just
nice.
going to give her a quick test.
Yeah.
Spawn and sane, then pray for rain.
That's right.
Don and
That's
Saint
Boston
Ray
Braves.
for
Well, I'll
Ryan.
bring her up a notch. She's too young. She doesn't remember that.
Too young.
Eddie Matthews,
Eddie Matthews.
Joe Adcock.
Eddie, yeah, some of the legends.
Then I'll bring her up a notch from that. Smoltz, Glavin. I got to be getting in there now. Some of her favorite players.
Chipper Jones been around forever.
Oh yeah,
My God.
He's a testament to the game. He's still.
Is
he's
this
a
his
quality
last
guy.
year, Chipper?
Yeah.
Could I finally pack it in?
Yeah,
But
when he announced this was his last year, with all of these games to play, he was crying at the press conference. I think one of two things: he's an emotional guy, or he really loves the game because he really he broke up 2 or 3 times, and here he had a whole year to play the game, and that's how the passion for the game of baseball. People say it's slow, it's this, it's that. I can't keep up with the changes in sports. And I watch people go up and down the floor,
Yeah.
And last night, I carry an anthem for older people. So last night I got all excited when I seen Boston has some players that have
those heat
gray
gags.
sideburns. Boston players, Pierce and Garnett gets down and does knuckle push-ups at 36 years old. And I watched supposedly, arguably, the best basketball player ever on the other team.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter that he's the best. It's
Yeah.
teamwork, and it's Boston has this Allen guy. They have a couple of younger guys. They got nothing from Rondo last night. They still won on Miami's home court.
What a gag
It's,
effort. Gag.
That's my argument when they talk about the greatest basketball player on balance that ever played. I say Michael Jordan because he made players out of guys like Ty Weddington, Bill Cartwright, Paxton, Stockton's.
Yep.
He made players out of those people. I don't see the superstars now. I see Colby going out and scoring 48. The team scores 96. They get beat. That is not, I see LeBron, he's just starting to accept the ball at the end of close games now. He never would accept the ball before. That's why I side with Michael, and we disagree on that.
Disappointing last night if you're a Miami Heat fan, leading by 9 with 3 minutes to go. At home, you got to win those games.
Yep.
There's a term in tennis, holding serve. Holding serve means you hold your home court advantage. That, of course, is by the wayside. And it was sort of disappointing. I was dozing off when I was trying to watch the end of that game, and kind of surprised to see the Celtics win that game, 94-90. Now they take a 3-2 lead, go back to Boston, I believe, Friday night or Thursday night. Maybe it's tomorrow night. But it was kind of a shocker, and I bet the Heat's are really under a lot of heat today for that gag effort. Because they led by, I think, 13 or 14 early on. It doesn't mean anything in NBA. The old cliche is you can be up by 20, Bob, but Las Vegas cracks me up when you're out there and you're in those sports books. I was telling Bob, you look at there and it's Lakers by 5.5. You go back to your room after a heavy night of gambling and drinking and having a good time, and you put down $50, giving 5.5 to, let's say, Houston, and the Lakers jump out to a 24-point lead, and you're going, yes, I won. And you fall asleep. You get up the next morning, and they win by 2.
Yeah.
They had a 24-point lead. It's always, we'll get way ahead, and then we'll close the gap. Let's close the gap. And that's why the Vegas boys build those casinos. They don't build them on winners, I might add. They
true.
build them on losers.
Yep.
Hey, speaking of sports, we're with Bob Ohmann and Chris Chris Ebright, the head coach of the Newark Pilots. We're talking about their program as they get launching today on a bus tour out of town to go to Watertown to open up their season. Finger Lakes One will be there tomorrow night in Newark to cover their home opener. Should be a gorgeous day. They're talking mid-70s. It should be a rabid crowd. We look forward to coming over, fingerlakes1.com. We'll be covering the game, and we're looking forward to that. But let's talk about your love for sports, Bob. And we didn't talk about your collegiate days and how you are such a big – I see you got the Wolfpack shirt on this morning.
Yep.
So we don't want to sing North Carolina theme song or Duke. I know that you're not in love with those two universities. But talk a little bit about your affiliation with North Carolina State.
Well, when you get to North Carolina, you got to pick one of your teams.
Right.
And obviously, I think when I came in there, Michael Jordan was still playing in 1982 for Carolina. And NC State had a coach by the name of Valvano.
Sure.
And their football coach was also had some ties to the Pennsylvania area. And, it was a natural for me. And then, fortunately, in 83, NC State won the national championship. Valvano had a pretty good run that year.
Oh, yeah.
And from then on, my wife and I have supported NC State. And we're really excited right now with their football program. They got the coach out of Boston College for the last 5 years. And we've had some really good players. The guy in Buffalo that they just hired,
Mario.
Mario is an NC State guy. And, of course, Philip Rivers. And there's, quite a few of them running around. Jim Richer, obviously he was up there. And then, of course, in basketball, this year was a real good year. They got to the Final Eight. And I think next year will even be even better. They're ranked in the top 5. My daughter's a graduate, got her master's degree from Syracuse, so she's an avid Syracuse fan, but lives in North Carolina too. And we're really excited about Syracuse coming into the ACC.
Oh yeah, I bet.
And we're in 2 points. The athletic director at NC State had a really good point the other day. Bringing their football program has got a lot of history. The
Right.
Tom Coughlin's, obviously, Ernie Davis, and
Floyd Little,
Jim Brown, and
you name it.
And I think that's the thing. Historically, this last year, Syracuse came into Raleigh and played in the RBC Center, and I think almost a third of the fans are from Syracuse. They're all transplants there.
That's
great.
great.
So that's going to be a good marriage for the league. I think that's very exciting. Of course, we're excited to have Boeheim in that league because he's going to keep Carolina and Duke under control, we think. So
it's going to be great. So,
I always a name that you mentioned there rings a thing. Jim Valvano. I was sorry to see him take such an early exit from life and everything like that. But he was a guy that got people to believe, and I think he's the reason that they elevated North Carolina State in basketball anyway, right to the same. You don't say Duke and North Carolina and then 5 minutes later say North Carolina State. You say North Carolina State, North Carolina, and Duke will be the teams to beat. You don't even consider the Marylands, all that other stuff. But he got people to believe. And what happened there probably in 83 had one of the biggest basketball collegiate upsets ever. I mean, that was the dream
phenomenal.
team.
Oh,
they beat Houston. That was
They
the
were
dream team.
They were 18-point underdogs.
He had 3 guys that couldn't dunk the ball on his team, and he just got Charles and those guys. I mean, the fact that they won the game, and after the game he was running around, couldn't find anybody to hug.
Yep.
That
he
was
kept
great.
running around, and he made a statement. It was after that. It wasn't. It was down the road, maybe a couple of years after that, before he got really sick and everything like that. He said, "I'm not looking for playing time out of players. I'm looking for quality time.
Yes.
If I got a guy that can go out there for 6 minutes, make 3 stops on defense, fire up 2 jump shots," he says, "contribute, I'll get him out, I'll get these started back in." He said, "I'm looking for a team of 12 players. I don't ask me who my starters are." It would be the same thing, I think, in the game that you guys are in now.
That's correct.
I mean, you got 30 kids on your roster. If you don't use them, what's the use of carrying the roster? I mean, you've got to take chances.
Yep.
There's times you got to make moves that are contingent upon giving the kids some time so you could really know what's going on. But Jim Valvano, and he was a friend of Jim Boeheim's through the cancer societies and different things like that. Jim Boeheim being from your town. I played basketball against Jim Boeheim.
Did you really?
He was a freshman. I was a senior.
Okay.
But that was I don't hold that against him. But he, a lot of story tradition. But Jim Valvano. That was. I think it's easy to be a North Carolina State fan and remembering him. And there's other programs there. They're definitely, like you said, the football program is on the move and everything like that. But
they had one of the most fabulous basketball players ever. David Thompson.
Oh, sure. Excellent player.
Back in the 70s. And
excellent player.
They
could jump to the sky.
Yeah, they say he could pick a quarter off the top of the backboard.
Amazing.
I don't know if that was true, but
he could jump. I remember watching him.
Of course, he couldn't dunk. They had that rule because of Alcindor. They changed the rule on that.
Yeah.
So
I think he had I think they quoted that he had a 42-inch vertical leap.
You're right.
3.5 foot off the ground. So he was 6'4".
Yeah,
he was no giant. David, that guy could soar. Yeah,
he was a kind of a tragic story in the NBA.
Yeah.
But
there's a lot of
Well, we got Bob Ohmann, the owner of the Newark Pilots, and plus the Ohmann Theater in my hometown and his hometown, Lyons. Chris Ebright, the head coach of the Newark Pilots. We're talking to these gentlemen. We're probably going to go past 10. We got a few more topics we want to run by. These gentlemen aren't in any hurry, I hope. And certainly we want to set the stage. One thing that I was impressed upon, too, last night, is I met most of your organization. I'll meet most of them, the ones I didn't meet, tomorrow night. But the interns, talk a little bit about the interns from St. John. I met a Kathy and a David. They're going to be doing some things for the team. So explain a little bit about the interns from St. John Fisher, how that all interacts with you.
Well, one of the things, St. John Fisher has a sports management program, and what they try to do is develop their kids for sports, whether it be in colleges or professional. And one of the things, we worked with Scott Brayson, who's in charge of it at St. John Fisher, and he picks maybe 4 or 5 kids to let us interview, and we pick them, and they come out and they work in our program. The one thing they get with the Newark Pilots is it's kind of a you do everything. Where if you go to play for, if you
do it all.
If you go to work for the Red Wings, you might just work in this department or that department, and this kind of gives you the opportunity to really massage your resume and so on. This year, I think we'll have a total of 5.
Great.
We have one that's in charge of the stuff that goes out on the airwaves. We have one that also does all the press releases. We have an on-field person, which Kathy's going to do that. We also have the person that's going to run the scorebook. It's very complicated because every game, all the information goes back to I call it the corporate office, but the main office, and then the stats are put in, so people can keep an eye on their kids from the different colleges and things
now,
like that.
are they updated pretty quickly, the stats from a game?
Every night.
Every night.
Yep.
Good.
Yep, right.
So tonight's game, you'll have it in the morning.
Yep.
And that's on NewarkPilot.com?
Yep, or just go to pgcbl.com. And you can pick and choose which one to look at.
Okay.
They
compare. And
we've grown our league more like a minor league.
Nice.
Where everything's done pretty professionally. We've got a corporate person that handles that. When I mean corporate, it's a league person. And then we've got a president of our league, which is, I think he's done a really good job of kind of, putting everything together and, working on the different cities and stuff and the development. And
well, let's talk about the league. There's 8 members in the league.
There's 9 now.
9.
Yes.
Explain, to give our viewers and listeners who they are. We got Oneonta obviously coming tomorrow.
Yeah, Oneonta came from the NYCBL. They opted to leave the NYCBL because they wanted to go into a little bit better brand of baseball. I think that's pretty
They
fair
won
to
it
say.
last year, right, Bob?
They did.
So tomorrow night's game in Newark is a matchup of the last year's NYCBL champ and last year's Perfect Game League champ.
That's correct. Good. And one thing about Oneonta, they've got a great bunch of guys on their team. They've been developing over the years. They got a good ownership there. And then we've got Glens Falls, which that's a pretty big city.
Right.
And one of the reasons that I think this also helps for Newark, with all the cities that we're in, like the Elmiras, the Albanys, it kind of steps you up in your category in your baseball.
Okay.
And that was one thing, even when I went to Lyons, we played Class AA against your type of, Genevas and things like that. It kind of sells your program a little bit better. You've got Newark, which is probably one of the smaller towns in the league.
Exactly.
But we've been able to compete with the bigger guys. And that's always been the competition, like what you guys said a little while ago.
Yeah.
And I know Chris feels like that. We always want to play the best. We want to always step up.
You always
to the
want to
next
see
level.
how you stand up.
Absolutely. And obviously, Cooperstown's not a big city, but it's got all that history.
Oh, history.
We get to play in that ballpark, and we ended up playing them, I think, in the semifinals last year, and we really had a couple really good games there. We had a kid from Rochester get a hit to put us into the championship game, believe it or not. He got the home run to beat Amsterdam to take us into the second game. And one thing that we had all talked about, competition, I think Amsterdam gave up on the second game. They were deflated after we got them. And, then, of course, we're in Mohawk Valley, which is Little Falls, and they've got a lot of history in the old New York Penn League. And then, of course, Watertown, which has been in Double-A. And then, of course, Elmira. We played in Elmira the other night and won 13-1.
Wow.
And one of the things about Elmira, they got that old ballpark. You talk about history. They've got Babe Ruth played there. They got Lou Gehrig.
Really?
Who got married there?
Don Zimmer got married at home plate.
Yeah.
Okay, I did read that.
Yeah, it's really a marvelous place.
It's pretty neat.
Yep.
So those are the cities and areas that will be competing against the Newark Pilots. The one thing that I noticed and want to remind our viewers and listeners, again, the home opener is tomorrow night. If you want to come over, certainly the schedule, you can pull up NewarkPilot.com. The schedule will be out there for you to view. But if you want to stop over tomorrow night, come over and say hello to us, and I'm sure you can say hello to Bob and some of his staff over there. Again, I know we have other interest on a weeknight basis, but nothing like going to a ballpark and enjoying yourself. And I think you really would enjoy heading out to Newark and checking that. Obviously, to get to the ballpark, it's quite easy. Jim and myself decided it's about a 30-minute drive for us to come over, and basically you go out to the thruway to Geneva and head out to Lyons, down to the bottom of the hill, hang a left, and it's a few miles out on Route 31, past the Walmart. Bingo, there it is on the right-hand side, and that'll take you to Colburn Park.
Well, Harold, what we're hoping is that a lot of folks will be exposed to the Pilots through the webcast.
Exactly.
And maybe that will get them to go to some of the games that we're not webcasting.
Yep. Right.
Bob, I think you contacted me, Bob, after seeing the Clyde Lyons High School basketball webcast
that
we did.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how this got started. And
That's great.
I had known that I followed the Pilots a little bit last year when they made their run to the championship. But when I pulled into the park to come and see things firsthand, I knew that we were going to do it because I knew, number one, it would be everybody on our broadcasting team was going to have a great time spending time at that ballpark.
Yep.
And I'm hoping that through the webcast we can convey the quality of the park and the atmosphere to the people at home, and hopefully they'll be compelled to show up for some games. I'm really excited about it. Tomorrow night, a lot of planning and work has gone into it, and tomorrow night it kind of happens. And I especially like the fact that we chose weeknight. Well, we did some Sunday night games and maybe one Friday night game, but a lot of weeknight games with 7:00 starts. People are home settling in for the night, and hopefully we'll sit down and enjoy a baseball game on Finger Lakes 1.
It should be interesting, and like you say, I'm glad you checked out the Clyde Lyons game because we had started doing our 3 broadcasts last year, and it was a labor of love, and the ability to take the cameras that he has and the equipment that Jim has invested in at Finger Lakes 1 on a basketball setting was phenomenal, and I'd done 25 years of doing play-by-play, so it was a comfort zone for me, and as Bob knows, that Clyde Lyons game was a 1-point game, and it was you could cut the tension in that gymnasium with a knife in Clyde. It was phenomenal, phenomenal. And the number of hits we got for those 3 broadcasts, we did Waterloo, Newark, girls. Newark was undefeated at the time. And then we did Clyde Lyons, boys, and then we finally wrapped up our coverage of the Minders Wayne here in Seneca Falls. But I think he said we got 10,000, 11,000 hits, which is phenomenal for a website location in Seneca County. So the people really, and I told Bob, the beauty of what we do, and we're really looking forward to expanding some football and get into more basketball as the fall approaches. First, we got to worry about baseball. But what really I like, and Paul and me have talked about this, you got feedback from, and I was telling Bob last night at the ballpark, you got feedback from uncles out in Arizona, nieces, aunts out in California, aunts out in San Diego. Hey, I watched my nephew play for Seneca Falls. They click on 3 days after the game, but they watch it. And it's just amazing. And that's something the Internet can bring. And everything he does, obviously, that we do, he archives it. And it's kind of neat. So you get feedback from Arizona, Missouri. That's kind of nice touch. So that's what's really nice about it.
Oh, absolutely.
It's the beauty of it.
One thing we're going to have at the ball game tomorrow, we're going to have fireworks at the end of the game.
I heard that, yeah.
And we're going to have the Coors Light car, NASCAR there also.
Okay, good.
Which is kind of little touch that
Sure.
I thought was pretty good. B.W. Wright is bringing that, so
Okay.
that's really kind of cool.
Now, I got to tell you that having met you for the first time last night, it looks to me like you're the kind of owner that is going to walk around the park during the course of the game,
Yeah.
and if anybody says their beer is warm and their hot dog isn't cooked well, they're going to yell at you and say, "Hey."
Yeah.
And you're the kind of guy that's going to sit up there and make sure it takes care of it.
Yeah.
That's right.
I do care.
Am I close to that? You care.
Yeah, I do care.
That's the key.
Yeah.
You do care.
Yep.
And having only met you last night, it sounds to me, and I think I'm a pretty good judge of people. After all, I'm friends with Paul here, and I think you want an owner that's not sitting up in their press box or their owner's box, having a cheeseburger and a Coors Light while the game is underway.
Yeah.
You got to be kind of mingling with the fans, and if something isn't quite right, you make it happen, and that's what's impressive.
One of the biggest mistakes I made, my wife took me to a Atlanta Braves game, and I wore my Yankee hat.
Oh, dear.
Can you believe they booed me?
I can imagine, yeah.
It was disgusting.
I know. It's pretty scary.
Terrible.
Well, listen, guys, I know we're running past the 10 o'clock hour. Chris, any other comments you'd like to make? We're looking forward to covering your team, and we're looking forward to having you interact. We obviously want you guys to come back in another 4 to 6 weeks for a reappearance.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
But we wish you nothing but the best.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
And Bob, as far as we'll see you tomorrow night, and certainly I'll give you my email address. We'll share emails so you can fill us in some information. We'll just continue to talk about it on this show and my Weber on Sports show on Monday, so it should be good. Sure. So, guys, thank you very much. Any comments from Paulie? Paulie, bud?
No, not much. Just that baseball is America's pastime. It's like I say, it's from 6 to 86. Some of the people who watch the game on the FingerLakes1.com probably will find themselves driving over there. And it's
I hope so.
Where can you take a young family, and where can you take an older
pretty cheap
people
entertainment
without getting shoved around, pushed around like in football stadiums and stuff? And it's a family atmosphere, and like I say, I think that's going to be a successful summer, and I hope we can add to it by helping them out and bringing some fans out to see them play.
Well, I'm excited to try some of the concessions because it's not just your standard hot dogs and hamburgers. They have a big menu there. So every game that we're doing there, I'm planning on having dinner.
So am I.
Before the game. I'm really excited. I got my Newark Pilots hat on, courtesy of Bob. Again.
I don't have one yet, but I'll get one.
And, with a season opener today and home opener tomorrow, I got my Pilots hat on.
That's good.
Not to be positive right till the end, I always like to add a little negative to everything. I'm sure they don't have anything in their stand that equals a favorite player of mine, Nolan Ryan, who's now an owner of a team. He has an item at his concession stand that's called the broomstick. It's $26.50. It's
$26.50.
It's a 2-foot-long hot dog or something. You feed the whole family, right? Plus a few relatives, probably for $26.50.
The funny thing is, we've got a plate. What do they call it? The trash
trash
plate?
plate.
Trash plate.
Yeah,
that's
the trash
what I'm
plate.
Oh, yeah, they're in now.
$6.50. Yep.
Yeah,
Oh, my God. Do some of the players eat the trash plate?
Not before the game.
Maybe afterwards.
Yeah, that's a young man's game, I'll tell you.
I met all those guys last night, all those kids. They look like a few of them could pack it away.
Yes.
I bet they enjoy a nice meal after the game.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, guys, thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
We'll have you
Thank
back.
you.
We'll have you back in a few weeks and do an encore and see where we are. We can talk about our involvement thus far and how we've engaged, and you can update us on what's going on with the season.
Sure.
So, Bob Ohmann, the owner
you.
of the Newark Pilots and the Ohmann Theater, and I'm sure some other enterprises, and Chris Ebright, the head coach of the Newark Pilots, will be checking you guys out tomorrow night. So, Paulie, until next week, it's always a slice. So, ladies and gentlemen, you've been checking out the Dog and Paulie Show here on FingerLakes1.com, a production of FingerLakes1.com. We hope that you've enjoyed it, and we'll check you out next week. We hope to have the general manager of the Second Boss Country Club as our special guest. Bob Fuller hopefully will be here next week. And this is the Dog along with
Paulie Show.
Signing off on a Wednesday. Check out the Newark Pilot baseball team. Play ball.